At the start of movie, the children at Gracefield Orphanage lived happily under the care of their mother Isabella. Their peaceful life turned into a nightmare when they discovered the truth about their fate, being raised as food for demons. The story follows their desperate and clever plan to escape. At the start of the story, we saw an orphanage called Gracefield. A woman named Isabella took care of all the children there. The children called her mother and were happy with her. They also called each other brother and sister and lived peacefully together. Each child had a number tattooed on their neck to identify them. Isabella taught the children so they would be ready for life outside when they were adopted. 3 friends, Emma, Norman, and Ray, were among the smartest kids at the orphanage. Place was in a beautiful field where the children played. No child was allowed to leave the orphanage because of strict rules. Another rule was that once a child was adopted, they could never return. One day, a family adopted a girl named Connie. Everyone said goodbye to her, and Isabella took her out of the orphanage. After Connie left, Emma and Norman wondered if she would send them a letter, as promised by other children who had been adopted. But no letters had ever come. They then found Connie's favorite teddy bear on a table and decided to take it to her. Ray noticed that the main gate's light was still on, suggesting Connie might still be there. They ran to the gate and saw a truck. Inside the truck, they found Connie's lifeless body with a flower on it. They were terrified. Suddenly they heard footsteps and hid under the truck. 2 large demons arrived and placed Connie's body in a capsule. Emma and Norman overheard them saying that the meat of children from this place was very good and that they raised children just for them. They realized that their orphanage was a human farm where demons came to eat the children. Isabella then arrived and promised the demons she would bring an intelligent child next. It became clear that intelligent children were considered more valuable. The demons soon picked up Emma and Norman's scent and started searching. When they looked under the truck, they only found Connie's teddy bear. They gave the teddy to Isabella, who became suspicious that a child had been there. During this time, Emma and Norman were running back to the orphanage. Suddenly, Emma tripped and fell, crying because she couldn't believe that Isabella, whom she thought was a kind mother, was actually a bad person. She was also shocked to learn that their orphanage was not a safe place, but a human farm. Norman tried to comfort her and suggested they should escape. However, Emma insisted that they wouldn't leave without taking the other children with them. The next day, Emma and Norman went to the orphanage's fence. Norman said they needed a good plan to escape, and that they would inform the other children once their plan was ready. They crossed the fence and discovered a very tall wall on the other side, which seemed impossible to climb. They realized they needed to return with a rope. Meanwhile, all the children were playing outside. When one girl went missing, Isabella quickly used her watch to locate her and brought the girl back within moments. Emma and Norman realized that Isabella had placed trackers on the children to find them easily. The next day, Emma and Norman hid some ropes in a tree in the forest. Their friend Ray found them, and Norman explained everything. Ray believed them and agreed to help. They then went to the library to research and found that all the books had an owl stamp and a code around them. When they decoded it, they learned about a man named Minerva who knew the truth about the orphanage and wanted the children to escape. That evening, Isabella introduced a new assistant, Crone, to the children. This made Emma and Norman's escape plan even harder because now there were 2 assistants in the orphanage. Isabella showed Crone the profiles of Emma, Norman, and Ray, warning her to be extra cautious with them. The next day, the children were to play a special game to learn how to hide and escape if necessary. Crone joined the game, and although she managed to catch everyone, she couldn't catch Norman. That night, the 3 friends met. Norman thought that there might be a spy among the children who was reporting their movements to Isabella. He believed that this spy was an older child. Norman decided to tell Dawn and Gilda the truth to find the spy. However, Dawn didn't believe Norman and got angry, attacking Ray. Emma tried to convince them again, saying that what they said was true and they needed to trust them. Gilda believed Emma because she knew Emma cared a lot about Isabella and would never lie about her. Norman then told Dawn and Gilda where they had hidden the ropes. Later that night, an unknown child, who was Isabella's spy, slipped a note under the door. The note had the location of the ropes and accused Norman of being a bad person. The next morning, Emma, Norman, and Ray discovered that Isabella had taken their hidden supplies. Since only Don and Gilda knew about these supplies besides them, they suspected Don and Gilda. But Norman explained that Don and Gilda were not spies because he had never told them the real location of the ropes. He admitted that he had done this to test Ray and that no one else knew the real location of the ropes except Ray. Ray confessed that he had been working as a spy for Isabella because he had known the truth about the orphanage for a long time. He did not want to end up like the other children, so he agreed to work for Isabella in exchange for more time before being adopted. Ray also revealed that he had hidden Connie's teddy to help Emma and Norman learn the truth about Isabella. Emma and Norman decided to trust Ray and made him a double agent, meaning he would now spy for them instead of Isabella. Ray hid the ropes in a secret hole in his room, along with some gas cans and a gadget he made to block the tracker on himself, so Isabella couldn't find him. Ray then went to Isabella and distracted her by lying that the children planned to poison her food. Isabella thanked Ray for the information, but still told him that he would be adopted soon, which upset Ray. The next day, the 5 children went near the wall to test their ropes. Crone caught them in the act, but instead of reporting them to Isabella, she said she would help them. She told them that she had a chip in her body, which would kill her with an electric shock. The child escaped her security, but she still decided to assist them. The children learned that Crone had also grown up in the orphanage. She wanted to replace Isabella and take her position, which is why she wanted to help them. That night, the children visited Crone's room. She shared a story about a war that happened 1,000 years ago between humans and demons. Many people died, so both sides agreed to a deal called promise. The demons promised not to bother humans if they got some children to eat and educate. This is why some orphanages kept children for demons and educated them well. Brains of smart children made demons smarter, so they wouldn't attack humans. The children asked Crone about the tracker. She explained that all children had trackers in their ears, so Isabella could track their location. Since Ray had found a way to block the tracker, they weren't worried. Crone realized the children had figured out how to block the tracker. The next day, while the children were playing, Crone went to their bedroom to find the tracker blocker. Gilda saw her from the window and quickly warned her friends. They hid the blocker inside a pig teddy, which Crone had already checked. Crone found Ray's secret hiding spot but saw it was empty. She found the pig teddy and became suspicious. At that moment, Isabella arrived and gave Crone a letter, telling her she was being transferred to another orphanage. Crone was upset about leaving and left a special pen for the children. As she left, she met the orphanage supervisor, known as Grandmother. Crone told Grandmother about what had happened. Grandmother said Isabella was very good at her job and would never let the children escape. A demon then appeared and killed Crone. Meanwhile, Emma and Norman were climbing the wall, and Ray was keeping Isabella distracted with conversation. Isabella, already suspicious, didn't listen to Ray and locked him in a room. Ray later escaped with Don's help. Emma and Norman were caught by Isabella. She scolded them for trying to break the orphanage rules despite everything she had given them. Emma tried to hold Isabella so Norman could escape, but Isabella easily overpowered her and broke her leg. Seeing this, Norman stopped and refused to leave without Emma. Isabella told Norman that the next adoption would be his, making it his last day at the orphanage. That night, 4 children tried to help Norman again, but he said he would sacrifice himself to protect them if needed. Norman began packing his clothes and found a pen that Crone had left to help them. The next day, Norman climbed the wall using a rope to gather information. He discovered that a deep ditch on the other side made crossing the wall difficult. Norman returned to the orphanage and drew a map for his friends, telling them to find a bridge to cross the ditch. As Norman had to leave that evening, he said goodbye to the other children. Emma cried, knowing the demons would take Norman and eat him. Norman was taken to the main gate, where he met a man named Peter. Peter explained that he was in charge of feeding the demons and began to tell Norman everything. But Norman said he didn't need to know anything because he had come of his own free will. Then a demon appeared and killed Norman. Emma, deeply saddened and unable to do much because of her injury, was confronted by Isabella, who wanted Emma to become the next mother of the orphanage. Emma was very upset. Ray, now alone and hopeless, was told by Isabella that he would be next for adoption. That night, Isabella came to Ray, who had already planned to set himself on fire. As the flames spread, Emma cried out. Isabella rushed to the room, where Emma told her that Ray had committed suicide with the watch. Isabella quickly tried to put out the fire, as the watch was crucial for tracking the children. When Isabella turned away, Emma escaped with all the children, including Ray, as part of their plan. A flashback showed that after Norman's death, Emma received a letter from him with escape plans and a special pen. Emma gave this letter to Dawn and Gilda to work on the plan with the children. To avoid suspicion, Emma pretended to be sad in front of Isabella. In the plan, Emma did not tell Ray about the escape, because Isabella always watched him closely. Ray tried to set himself on fire, but he cut his tracker and threw it into the flames. They lied about Ray's death. Then, they used a knife to remove the trackers from everyone, but they could not take the smaller children. Emma promised to come back for them. The story then moves to the present. All the children climbed the wall one by one, threw their ropes over, and used hangers to cross to the other side. All the children except Emma made it over. Isabella arrived and told Emma that she was once innocent like her. Isabella had a boyfriend and got pregnant, but when she tried to escape, she realized she could never leave. Isabella explained that when her child died, she became the orphanage's mother and decided to give the children a good life. Though it made her sad when the children were handed over to the demons, she did it to protect humans. Isabella told Emma she was her favorite, but warned that if Emma tried to escape, she would cut the rope and drop her. Emma trusted Isabella would not do that. Emma crossed to the other side with the rope, and Isabella took out a knife but did not cut it. Isabella watched proudly as the children ran away. She remembered Ray singing a song in the field, a song she had hummed during her pregnancy. Isabella realized Ray was her lost child. As the children ran from the forest, Emma showed them a pen that, when opened, released an owl to guide them to the city. Meanwhile, Isabella went to meet Peter and her grandmother, feeling responsible for the children's escape. Peter handed her over to a demon as punishment, and the movie ended.